The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
WWE Developmental NXT.
Welcome, everybody, to Wrestling to the Max NXT review for January 18th, 2017. And we are brought to you by the W2M Network. That's right. If you don't have it, go ahead and go and subscribe now. Trust me, it's worth your time, and you'll get lots of great content. Also, go check out W2Mnet.com. Not only going to find out written reviews for all the great wrestling programs that you love, here are also other great content like video games and a little bit of football. So trust me. Also a great little sidebar that you need to go check out for sure. Great website. But tonight we are talking NXT. So let's dive into this thing head first, Paul.
Let's do so. As I flip on over here to the dock and show you how unprepared I am. No matter the show.
No, it's okay. Yeah, well, I didn't, and I feel bad, because I didn't even mention, but of course, you hear my voice. Usually, you're going to hear Sean most of the time, but we're kind of doing things a little differently. That's the way this thing works. So we're definitely missing Sean on this one, but hopefully you'll get a chance to hear his thoughts on NXT if he thought anything was special on our episode 2 of episode 230. If I can get that right, Paul. But here we are. Let's talk NXT before we both fall off the map. Okay.
Clearly, we're the most prepared hosts in the history of podcasting. Is all I'm
getting. Yeah.
So we opened this episode of NXT up with Nikki Cross taking on whatever wonderful name WWE decided to give Kennedy Brink, because that's who this is from Women of Honor. If you're familiar with any of that stuff, it's a squash match pretty much. I tend to enjoy Nikki's squashes though. She's very her character is just very enthralling as far as just watching her go nutso in the ring.
I agree, and that's what's so entertaining about the character, because she really comes out and plays crazy very well. Probably the best I've seen, honestly, because it does everything from the biting to the clawing to the I'm going to rip your head off, all the above, and that's what's really awesome about it. I think Nikki Cross has a lot to give for that, especially with that character, with this whole sanity thing. So I think it's really cool to see. And a squash match like this isn't boring. Sometimes we get on here and we talk about squash matches and just like, ho-hum, all right, move on. But this is not. This is actually kind of fun to watch, to be honest with you. And it's about the character. And I'm every week I want to see more, if I could put it that way. Just kind of like I've been wanting to see more about Damo and what his whole thing is. Kind of same with Nikki Cross.
Yeah, and I think they do well here as far as making, because Kennedy is taller and a little bit bigger than Nikki, so this looks a little bit more impressive to let Nikki get some more of that momentum going forward towards her title match against Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, and Asuka over there at NXT TakeOver San Antonio. And then we're going to go ahead and get out of all that, though, because No Way Jose says that 2017 is going to be a year to have fun in for him. And then Kona Reeves shows up, and he's all pissed because he thought they were friends, and I never got that vibe from them at all. But okay. And Jose invites him down to the ring for a fight or to have some fun. So, ball's in your court, I guess, Kona.
Yeah. Wow. See, that's exactly, Paul, I'll be honest with you. I thought I missed an episode of NXT or something. I really did. I was like, good God, what did I miss here? This has never taken place. These guys are friends. And, the closest to a friend I feel like No Way Jose had was Rich Swann.
Right.
From recent memory. So this is interesting. But, as it is, I guess, there's going to be a start to every story. So here's page one, I suppose, even though there's a prequel we missed. But in the long run, I mean, it's cool to see, we're finally getting to see more of Wwe Jose, to see him and really just get a chance to see him more on the mic, if I can say it that way. We've seen a lot of him in the ring, which is great, but you got to get his mic skills up to par if you want him to do anything more. And I think he's getting closer. He's kind of entertaining. But on the other hand, I thought it was kind of weird too, and maybe I'm just pulling at things here. But I just noticed that he was really just kind of really vibrant in this, and he's always been vibrant, but he's really extra vibrant. So maybe he was just trying to do it to kind of get a little bit more extra oomph in his character, which you got to work on your character, and I think that's what he did here. But not a bad little segment here. You'll get a chance to see these guys later on.
And I think just going along that same route, with all the talk of call-ups and stuff going around near the top of the card, they've sort of positioned Wwe Jose to at least help fill out one of those spots. So maybe this could be a big year for him. I'm not saying NXT title or anything, but certainly he could be in that upper echelon of guys they rely on the main event shows.
I agree. And I'm not going to jump ahead here, but there's some other guys on this show at least, and there's probably the guys that weren't even on the show that I think you're right. They're setting up for that, and it's really important because we've had to see it in many different vectors of this NXT developmental over the last 2 to 3 years with those call-ups. So I think it's really positive. I think Wwe Jose is a great face, and I think he's a guy that I really wasn't into day one, but I think he's given me enough to really sit here and say, okay, I get you. You're that quirky, fun-loving guy that everybody wants to party with. Kind of like what we saw with Adam Rose when he was part of NXT, right? Where that party vibe that, everybody jump on the bandwagon, this is just going to be a good time. That's what I'm getting from Wwe Jose. But in sense, you also get in the ring a very aggressive wrestler, which, when he brings the party to you, it's not all fun and games. So I do appreciate that. I'm right there with you. This guy, I think, has a bright future. Maybe not NXT championship. I mean, I don't know what they would do, but I think he's going to be a main player in this whole NXT.
Yeah, I agree completely with all that. And let's go and move on to another big part of NXT, and that's the Revival, who said that 2016 was their year, the best tag team ever, which it's really hard to disagree with the year they had last year because, I mean, wow, was it incredible. But they say 2017 is going to be even better. TM61 shows up, says they want to fight and try to earn their way to a title shot. And the Revival, they say they're the greatest. TM61 ain't nothing but bottom feeders, and they're going to cripple them tonight. So there's a threat that I would wager they could make good on. And then Roderick Strong pretty much squashes Steve Cutler in about 5 minutes. We still haven't really got to see a lot of Roderick Strong, I think, on NXT. And it's probably because they haven't really jumped him into anything super important yet. But that seems to change here in the post-match interview as he continues to claim that he doesn't care about Andrade Cien Almas, and he is focused on that NXT championship.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's interesting here, too. And it goes back, and this is exactly the guy I wanted to point the finger at when you're talking about Wwe Jose, is another guy that they can build this NXT roster around. And I'm sure he's going to be in that main event picture, or you want to say NXT championship picture, probably. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how much, because I'm not sold that he's going to be their guy and the guy they want to hand the NXT championship belt to for a long period of time, if long at all, or if at all. I don't know. But I do like the character development here. He has a decent match with Cutler, and it works out. You get a chance to see him, you get to see Cutler. Everything you need to see is right there. But what's most important to me is getting that little bit of a promo, understanding what possibly could be coming from him in the future. Because right now, as it sits, like you said, we haven't seen a lot of him. You know him. You've seen him maybe 3 times, I think, since NXT. Mm-hmm. His NXT career, I don't know. I can't really remember. But at the end of the day, I'm excited to see him here. The crowd loves him. They all chant Roddy. And that's the most important thing to understand, is that as a veteran, he's going to be around, just kind of like what we saw with I'm already blanking on his name though. The 205 Live, he's been doing the announcing. I can't believe
Austin Aries.
Austin Aries, thank you. My God, Gary. The greatest man alive, Austin Aries. He's been playing that part in NXT until he got injured, right?
Right.
So we're seeing Roderick Strong do the same thing. This is, to me, it just showcases what WWE's done right and signing some of these guys from TNA or Ring of Honor or even just the indie circuit that have been veterans that know their role. They step in day one and can pick up where they left off, or maybe even, just play that part of, hey, I know what I'm doing. I don't have to worry about looking bad. I've been on the mic 100 times. I appreciate that. So that's what I'm excited about Roderick Strong. I think he's going to be a big part of 2017 as well.
I think, it very well could be. Obviously, I don't think we'll truly know the landscape of NXT for most of the year until we get past WrestleMania. But to say that Roderick couldn't main event, it would just be silly. But his interview skills have never been the greatest. He's somebody who I very much envision in the same way as Seth Rollins coming in, who has all the in-ring ability in the world to draw you in and tell stories and, make it look like he's beating the piss out of you and breaking your back and all that great stuff. But promo skills are going to be something that he definitely needs to work on, at least as far as trying to draw in crowds on the main stage if they get him up that far. Because he's somebody who I could see being here for a year or two.
Mm-hmm. He's so talented. I mean, just everything he does is so smooth, and he's just a technician, and he knows his role so well when it comes to being in the ring. And the lack of mic skills definitely affects him. But I'm not trying to, this is maybe a little off kilter, but I do kind of think of guys like a Chris Benoit who were just excellent technicians. They just knew their way around the ring, blindfolded and hands tied behind their back. But the issue is can he get himself over to that next level with the mic skills? And it may never happen. I mean, some guys just are not built for that. At the end of the day, though, if he ever hit a main roster, he probably would never be a mainstream, main title picture kind of guy, but I think he'd be a key part of a roster. And I think that's what he's going to do in NXT. If he moves further than that, good. I'm happy for him. But I just don't really, past NXT, I don't see a lot from him.
Yeah, at least at this point, the guys you talked, like Benoit was able to find a way to translate his in-ring style into his promos, where that same sort of viciousness sort of came out. Or when you look at guys like a Bret Hart, who really found a way to get you on his side just by claiming to be the best all the time. Or you look at Seth Rollins, who managed to cultivate a character seemingly out of nowhere and really sort of pick up on sort of the cues that you need whenever you're that top heel. So, I mean, I'm not saying it happened for him. There are plenty of examples that it can, as far as somebody who's just so in-ring based, but it's not a ringing endorsement when you only have maybe 5 examples on hand.
No, yeah, exactly. You have a very small sample. I'm just going based off his entire career so far. But, we also have to think about, that entire career. He's been on the indie circuit. He's been around the world, but he hasn't been a part of a roster or an organization like WWE who they give you all the chances in the world to do that. They have people that can help you. Whereas on the indie circuit, it's up to you. That's your job. So.
Very, very true. Very true. Speaking of promos, Ember Moon gets one that says whenever the battlefield clears, she's going to be gunning for the title. I'm assuming that means after the 4-way here at San Antonio. Liv Morgan shows up and says there's plenty of competition around, that they don't need Ember here for it. And Moon just sort of tells her, all right, well, you better give it your all, because if you're facing me, you're going to get the crap beat out of you. And at this point, with how well they've done with Ember Moon, it's hard to argue.
Yeah. You got to feel bad for Liv, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of this year, really came on trying to pick up pace because of the fact that they had lost some of their superstars in the women's division in NXT. And he's done fine. It's just really she hasn't really reached that next level. And it's hard for me to believe that's going to happen, especially against Ember Moon, who they've already pushed to the moon in a way. I mean, she's just dominant right now. To me, when Nia Jax left, that's when Moon came in and picked up. She's just the one that's just taking everybody out. So that's fine. And I do want to see this. This is not a bad, matchup here. But, as it sits, you just don't have a lot of confidence in what Liv Morgan's going to bring to the table after seeing kind of how things have gone for her.
I mean, I think when it comes to Liv, I think they're onto something with her and Billie Kay sort of working together and teaming up and sort of playing the numbers game against, you have these big dominant forces in the NXT Women's Division like Ember Moon now and like Asuka, of course, and then Nikki Cross is packing Sanity behind her, and you have all these different factors where, I mean, them teaming up just sort of seemed organic. So I'm really behind them. I think they both can work well. They just need to find a way to really transition over from what they used to do on the independents. And Billie Kay is a really great example of this because I think she's on the cusp of finding her way in between that style that she worked on the independents versus what WWE wants from her, and really trying to. It's like watching a teenager, right? They're not quite the kid that they used to be, but they're not quite the adult, and there's a lot of growing pains going on where they're going to make a lot of mistakes, and I think that's where we're at with both those girls.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. And it's interesting. It's like growing up and watching someone grow up. You learn a lot about them, and you learn about who they are, but they're just not everything that they can be. And so that's what's interesting about all these women. They all have great ability. There's no doubt about it that you can raw talent. It's just that they've got to reach that next level, and you're hoping that they can. And so, I mean, I can't really name one that I really don't think that has has reached their ceiling. I think they all have pretty high ceilings.
Completely agree with you. So now let's talk about this promo with Tye Dillinger, who says, 2016 kind of ended on a downer for him. Of course, he lost to Bobby Roode and he lost to Samoa Joe and pretty much the top echelon stars on NXT. And he's let so many people down so many times and doesn't really know if he has it anymore and doesn't belong and all this other stuff. And he says he has all these people that believe in him, but he's just failed, every time. And then Sanity shows up, and EY and all of his gruffy brilliance says that, Dillinger, you never had it. You were never 10. You just need somebody to show you the right way to make the right choices with the right friends, and he hands him a Sanity jacket. Dillinger sort of just looks at it and throws it on the canvas, and Young sort of comes at him with the right decision can feel wrong stuff and all this stuff about how his future is unclear and, really hyping up how great Dillinger could be if he was with them, right? And he keeps trying to hand him the code, and then finally Dillinger just has enough and they start attacking each other. And then here comes Big Damo, arrives, takes him out, squashes Tye under his back like a bug, and then picks up the coat and joins Sanity. I thought this was great. Dillinger was awesome. This is one of the few times I've really enjoyed EY's promos. And, you got a crazy big guy with a whole lot of ability now in Sanity.
Oh, hold on. I'm checking the temperature. I'm making sure hell didn't freeze over. You just said Eric Young in a positive manner.
I sure did.
Wow. Oh man, Paul. I don't. I'm taken aback. I kid. No, you're right. Honestly, Eric Young wasn't bad at all. He did a great job here, and this was very interesting with Tye Dillinger because, and honestly, I kind of feel like he's pulling from his own, real life emotions. Because he's telling the truth. He's like 15 years, and really, what do I have to show for it? He's kind of bringing it out and just saying, where can I go from here? I've reached, I think, the levels that I can reach, and I'm still not successful. And then, of course, as you just to think about, man, this guy's actually going to leave, then you get a chance to see this whole thing go down with Eric Young. And I was really curious about the reason why Eric Young wanted him to join. And really, Eric Young, I don't think really ever gives you that exact reason. He just gives him the offer, says he understands where he's at and all that kind of stuff, but he really never says why he would want this guy, Tye Dillinger, in Sanity. But at the end of the day, maybe it's because of his athleticism, maybe it's because he actually really is a good wrestler. But I appreciated this whole thing. Big Damo coming down, there you go. That's the icing on the cake because of the fact that I've been waiting for this. I think all of us have to see what Damo's intentions are. We got what we thought they were. We really thought he was wanting to join Sanity. At times, I was questioning it. Honestly, I thought maybe he was watching him closely and then was going to turn on him. That didn't happen. This is now Sanity just gained so much momentum because of the fact they have two big powerhouses. They've got someone in the women's division, and they got Eric Young, who is a wise old veteran who, pretty decent in the ring as well. So I think Sanity just got even, more difficult. They're going to be more of a problem. Ty Dillinger, he's going to have a battle in front of him, but that's going to be so much fun. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't have thought of a better thing for him right now because let's think about this. He's faced... didn't he face Nakamura not long ago, I believe? If I'm not wrong, I thought he did. Maybe he didn't.
I don't recall him facing Nakamura.
It was Bobby Roode, for sure.
Yeah, he had Bobby Roode at Toronto, and then that following week on NXT, where they taped in that same area, SmackDown, he had the NXT title match against Samoa Joe.
Samoa Joe. Okay, that's who I was thinking. It wasn't Nakamura, it was Samoa Joe. Okay. So he had those two main event players that he went against and just was not able to be successful. But you see him working in that, and then from here, where do you go? There's not really a lot of leeway for this guy to go because he's been facing main event talent. So this is the perfect place to put him in. Not only is he fighting for his life, but he's also fighting against a group that honestly it's almost impossible to beat because of their numbers game, the size factor, everything, all the above. So this is a mountain that you kind of look at Ty Dillinger and say, can he overcome it? Can he climb that mountain and win? He can. But that's what's so cool about it because you're just thinking about all those questions. And, that's the best feud, if you ask me. The ones you can ask questions about. When you don't know those answers, that's what I love.
Absolutely. And not to spend so much time on, although this might be a very big turning point as far as storytelling goes in NXT for the next couple of months. You have a guy who's sort of losing faith in himself and looking for some way to find his ability and confidence again to get him back to that top level. And then you have EY, who is sort of the cult figure in all of this, right? Come on down and sort of say, like, I have all these answers for you. And that's where this whole segment's coming from, right? Is that EY says that Sanity and the way they do things is how you could be the very best, and Ty ain't about that, right? So, plucky underdog babyface, losing confidence, which seems to be the only babyface WWE knows how to book these days, is plucky underdog, but it is what it is. And then, obviously you have Big Damo come out, and if Ty Dillinger can start slapping together some buddies, we could have some really fun match combinations on our hands going forward for months and months.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And really quickly, I will ask you, how much did you want him to take that jacket? In a weird way, I wanted him to take it. I would
have been okay with it, right? I mean, I don't know. Everybody loves the perfect 10 gimmick, right? Like during the UK tournament, he had those guys doing the 10 thing during the count out. So, I mean, he's got a lot of heat behind him, and if they ever decide to capitalize on that, I think they could have a big star on their hands in NXT if they really wanted to upgrade him to that sort of echelon. Like, I wouldn't mind him and Bobby Roode again if Roode does win the NXT championship. So,
yeah, I totally agree.
And at that same time, do you think maybe Dillinger ever gets the NXT title?
You know what? I could see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it maybe sounds crazy at the point we're at with him, but as long as that guy has spent the tenure that he's had in NXT, all the hard work and the way that his character is being built right now, I can see it. It's just right there in front of him. It kind of reminds me a little bit of even Neville. Mm-hmm. A guy that's, fighting his way to the top. And this is some peaks and valleys for Ty Dillinger. But, yeah, I think at the end of the day, it would be nice. And I sure hope, and I think it's very possible for him to one day be NXT champion. And then from there, guess what? More challenges. Yay.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up, you have your main event match. Not main event segment because we still have the big contract signing. But the Revival take on TM61. the Revival ends up losing this one after TM61 makes a big comeback. The Revival work over Shane Thorne's leg, who is actually legitimately injured because he needs knee surgery, so they wrote him off here. Obviously it looks like TM61, going to be out for a while, or at least Thorne is, and you can have Miller doing whatever. But this is an open end for a feud that Revival may or may not have time for, depending on their status as far as main roster versus NXT.
Yeah, exactly. And doing something like this just builds on these guys. I mean, the Revival, we already know they are a tough bunch of guys. These two guys are willing to do anything at all cost to be successful, to not only win the tag titles, but just to further themselves. And hurting one of the best tag teams in NXT is right up their alley. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it is, of course, like you said, break kayfabe, it's a real injury. They had to do that. But at the end of the day, too, you look at it as it's a great story. And it just builds on these guys. And hopefully, it does lead to them moving on and doing bigger and badder things. But at this point, I think it's really going to cause maybe one big shebang. I don't know if these guys are going to be taking on anyone at NXT San Antonio, but I think that would be a great last way to send those guys off to some kind of big match with somebody to end this thing. So I definitely see those guys moving on, though. I think this is just one of those ways to kind of do it, because them losing in this match, it's almost like a calling card of, hey, we're leaving. That's kind of the way they do things.
Right. And you're absolutely right. It leaves open loose, because the plan I have to think before this was, you have Gargano and Ciampa feuding with the Authors of Pain. You have TM61 and the Revival. Revival put TM61 over going out, and then you have your rematch from the Dusty Rhodes Classic down the line. But I think maybe plans going to get thrown around. Maybe the Revival sticks around in NXT longer. We don't know. I do know they're ready. They're as ready as they're ever going to be as far as main roster stuff goes. So.
Yeah, and I know it's a little early, but my prediction would be probably to SmackDown, because I just think those guys would fit so well in that SmackDown division. I mean, trust me, they would help Raw, but Raw is such a weird. They played the little tag team situation a little different in their division on Raw.
Mm-hmm. I want them to go to SmackDown. Anybody on NXT, I want to go to SmackDown just because it's the better show, in my opinion. But we make this point every time we talk about the Revival. Raw needs another big heel tag team, and the Revival, especially in a land where you have so many gimmicks, they could work pretty well in a foil to a lot of people over there. So I think they'll succeed no matter where they go. I just think they'll have a better chance, especially with American Alpha over on SmackDown. I could watch those guys wrestle forever.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Ember Moon and Liv Morgan's going down next week, and we get to our main segment here, which is Bobby Roode and Shinsuke Nakamura doing the big track signing. This is really, really good because they're such different characters, and they're both so incredibly talented, right? So Roode is just the big jerk. He's over entitled. He's overconfident. He's treating Nakamura pretty much as if he's just a small little bump in the road, right? And Roode's got every reason to think that he's undefeated in NXT. Nakamura's had sort of his weaknesses shown against Samoa Joe, and obviously you're going to get a very different match than what those guys were bringing to you. But Nakamura ain't stepping down. He's telling everybody that he's going to kick his head off and that it's going to be glorious. That's really all you need from Nakamura. I'm so ready for this. The Clash of Styles. And I think there's going to be, Bobby Roode can work with anybody, in my opinion, and I'm a huge fan of his work. I'm really ready to see what he can do with Shinsuke. I really am.
Oh, this is going to be beautiful. I can already tell you it's going to be so great. The way these guys kind of portray themselves, like you said, it really kind of exudes who they are. Their characters, Bobby Roode did a good job. Even, we had Nakamura doing, speaks English pretty darn well for, not, being over here a long time. We knew he knew English, but I think he's done a really great job of pronouncing and making sure he was very clear. And he just does a good job of doing that to help the audience who doesn't, maybe understand or, do dialect very well. They can actually hear him. So it's so impressive. And I think both these guys, to me, they really kind of brought those emotions out in this promo. And these two guys just kind of staring each other down, actually 2 times, not just once, but twice. Kind of shows you, the way then how intense they are planning on being. And this is going to, I'm telling you, this is going to be so much fun to watch. It's one of the big reasons why I wish, NXT San Antonio was just tomorrow. But, I think that this is actually a feud that I wasn't sure was going to happen real fast, but I'm glad they did it. And especially for the fact that, the glorious thing is over so much with the NXT crowd. This is just going to be such a great way to, cap the night off when we get to that point at NXT San Antonio. It's going to be probably the 2 best entrances in the night. So I'm just looking forward to this whole thing. I really, really am.
Yeah, I mean, the NXT TakeOver should be incredible. And I'm really looking forward. I'm going to the Dallas show that's here the night before. I'm super excited to go to that because I've never seen NXT in person before. But man, what a great NXT this was. I enjoyed it greatly. For those, I mean, you don't always have big stuff happening, but when you do, it feels awesome. And these build-ups to TakeOver are usually always pretty great. So,
yeah, for sure. So, once again, I mean, they're doing a great job on this episode and a few of these other episodes of really doing a good job of building up these storylines, throwing little things here, a little bit there to get you going and keep these continually getting better, to get these feuds, in front of you. But not only that, not boring you week by week with the same old shtick, right? I mean, I think some of the feuds we've talked about just in this episode have added things to really build up to the point where when we get to the San Antonio show, it's going to be just a blast, and we're just going to be chomping at the bit to get to it.
absolutely.
So, all right. Well, that is our NXT for this week. We appreciate everybody for coming out and checking out this show. Of course, next week we'll be doing another one. Also, don't forget to go check out episode 2 of a Wrestling to the Max. It'll be episode 230. And that is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be definitely jumping into a lot of news topics. We'll be talking Impact Wrestling and some other great stuff that you guys are going to want to hear. Of course, don't forget also, if you haven't heard, we also do a Raw, a SmackDown Live, and a 205 Live show for you guys. So those review shows are a lot of fun too. Go check them out if you haven't heard them. Weekly. I mean, these things are just a lot of fun for us to do, just like this NXT show. So don't miss a minute. Go share it with your friends. Tell people about it. And we appreciate everybody who came and check us out tonight. Also, don't forget, once again, the W2M Network and W2Mnet.com. All right, guys. Well, that is it for us tonight. So we will see you guys down the road.
Take it easy, folks.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.